Top stories in our news. A consortium of opposition political parties have called for the abolition of the Constitutional Court, saying it is not serving its purpose. The United States ambassador accredited to Zambia has clarified that there is no evidence to suggest that Zambia's state assets are poised to be taken over by China due to the country's loans. And the Electoral Commission of Zambia ECZ has been urged to announce a date for Sesheke, Kafue and other ward by-elections before rains intensify. And now the news in detail. A consortium of opposition political parties has called for the abolition of the Constitutional Court, saying it is not serving its purpose. Speaking at the State of Democracy and the Plight of Zambians briefing, National Democratic Congress NDC consultant Chimba Kambwili has alleged that the Constitutional Court was meant for a purpose of giving President Edgar Lungu a third term in office. Dr. Kambwili says now that it has achieved its alleged purpose, it is important that the Constitutional Court is removed from the Constitution. And Dr. Kambwili says that the opposition political parties are also demanding for radical judicial reforms the Kenya and South African way, as well as abolish the Constitutional Court. The NDC consultant is urging Zambians to also rise up from their slumber and demand that a new people-driven constitution review process be undertaken by the Ministry of Justice immediately to amend the current constitution and remove any ambiguities so that no person can claim to stand for a third term. He states that time has come for all Zambians to unite against those that wish to kill the hard-earned democracy and protect the constitution. Dr. Kambwili is calling on Zambians to demand for accountability in the use of public wealth and a prudent and equitable distribution of resources to key areas of need, including health, education, water, and sanitation. He has, however, asked Zambians to exercise their rights and duty to defend and protect the Constitution and the democracy of the country.
It's in one voice, that no third term for President Edgar Lungu or anyone else. To rise up in unity and demand that the judiciary be allowed to operate freely and independently without interference from anyone. To demand for radical judicial reforms the Kenyan and South African way, and for the consequent abolition of the Constitutional Court. Consequence, abolition of the Constitutional Court. You may agree with me that this court is not serving any purpose. It was made for a purpose of giving Mr. Lungu a third term. Since it has done its illegality, let us now remove it from our statutes. To join us in the fight against corruption, to unite as one and to act together, now to protect your power, the people's power, from being abused and taken away by the greedy and corrupt element of our society. To bring an end to political motivated intolerance, an end to political violence, to restore the peace, love and unity for which Zambia is renowned, to restore the dignity of Mother Zambia by speaking out against all that is wrong and Zambian to our country today, tomorrow, and for the foreseeable future. To say no to unrealistic and excessive taxes and levies on your already overstretched income, and most importantly, to demand for the accountability in the use of public wealth.
And speaking at the same event, United Party for National Development UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema says the decision by the court not to accept the very clear wording of Article 106 Cap 3, which states that the person who has held office as president is not eligible for elections as president anymore, is a serious concern. Ms. Hichilema says for the first time in the history of Zambia and the country to the will of the people, as demonstrated in the brief historical background above, a court has legalized the holding by a person of a third term in office.
The judgment opens the door for him to do so again, for him to have a third stint in office, contrary to the resolve of the Zambian people dating back from 1991, 2001, when we say it clearly, no third term as a people. Very, very clear. The power is in our hands, fellow citizens, to say once again, but this time to Mr. Lungu and the PF, no third term. We shall not allow a third term as a people. In the same spirit of the Zambian people, we shall not allow any single person to hold office for more than 10 years, as this opens the door for despotism in our country. Examples are plenty in Africa, where the constitution is manipulated so as to allow dictators to extend their rule, and this is what we are seeing today in our country. It will begin with one term, if you like. It will begin with a 1 year, 6 months extension, then another extension of 2 years and 11 months, and so on until Mr. Lungu is in office in perpetuity. This is the meaning of that judgment. Zambians must not allow this, and the power is in our hands to say no to more than 10 years of rule by anyone in our country. As a matter of law and fact, by holding that a term of office is less than 3 years, by holding that a term less than 3 years cannot be deemed as a qualifying term for purposes of eligibility to stand for election as president, the Constitutional Court has created a dangerous precedent and a constitutional crisis, given the provisions of Article 814 to Article 819.
And the National Restoration Party leader, Elias Chipimo, says that the Constitutional Court decision was wrong, irregular, and dangerous. Meanwhile, Republican Progressive Party leader James Lukuku has noted with displeasure that the rule of law is highly compromised, with corruption being the order of the day, and those who dare to speak out against it become instant enemies of the state, or are thereafter abused and harassed using the police and other wings of state authority.
The decision by the Constitutional Court was wrong, irregular, and very dangerous. Because what they have done is they have said that a law which did not exist before January the 5th, 2016, can now be backdated as though it existed before that date. It's very unusual in law to retroactively apply something which is supposed to apply only in the future. And by doing so, they have now allowed potentially one candidate to run 3 times for president of this country. Something we've made very clear in the statement we have issued today. Every Zambian has rejected from the time that we were first allowed as citizens to participate in a discussion about whether or not a president should serve for more than 2 terms. So, you ask a very important question. The court raised a question which they asked themselves, which they didn't give an opportunity for all the parties to debate.
Of state authority. Today, civil liberties are non-existent, with only those that support the ruling party enjoying the right to exercise their guaranteed freedoms, and the police being on hand to arrest anyone else, as the Abuse of the Public Order Act has now become the norm. Political intolerance and violence has become the order of the day, contrary to the spirit of peace and unity that Zambia is renowned for.
The United States ambassador to Zambia has clarified that there is no evidence to suggest that Zambia's state assets, including the power utility company ZESCO, were poised to be taken over by China due to the country's loans. Ambassador Daniel Lewis Foote clarified in Lusaka that USA National Security Advisor John Bolton referred to widespread international reports on Zambia regarding Chinese loans and state assets. Ambassador Foot was responding to Zambia's notice of a letter seeking clarification from the U.S. government on this matter. He explained that the thrust of U.S. government concerning remained the way China was extending its loans to the African countries. Ambassador Foot says such non-transparent contracting and debt acquisition impose unsustainable debt on recipients, fueling corruption and limiting the options for the citizens of recipient countries to determine their future. Recently, Zambia had written an official demarque to the United States government to request a retraction of a portion of the statement made by a senior United States official, John Bolton, who alleged that the Chinese government intends to repossess some state-owned enterprise because of government failure to settle its outstanding loans. Foreign Affairs Minister Joseph Malangi, who disclosed this in Addis Ababa, states government is optimistic that the American embassy in Zambia is expected to transit the demarque to Washington, D.C. as soon as possible. In his statement to unveil new USA policy on Africa in relation to China and Russia, USA National Security Advisor John Bolton says Zambia owed China between $6 billion to $10 billion US and is poised to lose its state utility company for China to recoup the debt. The Electoral Commission of Zambia ECZ has been urged to announce a date for Sesheke, Kafue and other ward by-elections before the rains intensify. Governance Elections Advocacy Research Initiative GEARS Executive Director McDonald Chipenzi says it is now 34 days since the Sesheke Central Parliamentary seat fell vacant following the untimely death of its Member of Parliament from UPND Frank Kofa-Kwandi in South Africa, where he was being treated for a cardiac condition on 12 November 2018. According to the Zambian Constitution, under Article 57(1), it states that where a vacancy occurs in the office of the Member of Parliament, Mayor, Council Chairperson or Councillor, a by-election shall be held within 90 days of the occurrence of the vacancy. Further, under the same Article 57(3), it stipulates that the Electoral Commission of Zambia or the Electoral Commission shall by regulation say the place where and the date and time when a by-election is to be held. But Mr. Chipenzi has noted the need for the Electoral Commission of Zambia ECZ to set the date for the pending by-elections at district, parliamentary and ward levels following some resignations and dates of some of the elected leaders in the affected districts, constituencies and wards before the rains intensify and farming activities occupy many voters. He says that this is because most of the affected areas are farming areas and some are very inaccessible due to the poor road network during the rainy season. The GEARS Initiative Executive Director explains that some parts or wards of Sesheke and Kafue district are inaccessible during the rainy season, and ECZ will need a helicopter to reach these areas and deliver voting materials and collect them.
This is because most of these areas are farming areas and are very inaccessible during rain season due to poor road networks. For instance, some parts of and wards of Sesheke and Kafue district are inaccessible during the rain season, and the ECZ would need a helicopter to reach these areas and deliver voting materials and collect them. Political parties will have to use special transport to mobilize and canvass for support during the campaign period, while the civil society and voter educators will also need special vehicles to reach out to these areas, which will be very expensive. And this will not be an expense only to the Electoral Commission of Zambia, but civil society, political parties, and voter educator. And this is why we Electoral Commission of Zambia to consider quickly announce the dates for Sesheke Central by-elections, Kafue District Council by-elections, and indeed some wards that are fallen due from the time we held the last by-elections in Mangango. I think this will be helpful not only to the Electoral Commission of Zambia and to all, but to all stakeholders in the electoral process. So the earlier the Electoral Commission of Zambia does the announcement, the better. And in any case, we are already in the 90 days. So if we are talking of 34 days gone, we are remaining with only 56 days remaining to the collapse of the 90 days stipulated in the Constitution.
Still in the news, the Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia has predicted that there will be a high number of trained but unemployed teachers in the country next year. EFZ Executive Director Reverend Pukuta Mwanza has called on government to address a shortage of teachers so as to enhance quality teaching in schools. He says that the recent recruitment of 2009 against nearly 30,000 applicants is showing a very serious problem in terms of job creation in the country. Reverend Mwanza is of the view that the 28,000 trained teachers who have been left out will be in the streets because not even private schools can employ them, as they do not have enough spaces to absorb such a huge number of trained but unemployed teachers. He has noted that there is an increase in the number of tertiary education such as universities and colleges, but there is no corresponding increase in the appropriate jobs for the universities and college school leavers. A situation he said must be addressed in a significant way. Reverend Mwanza has urged the government to consider increasing the number of spaces for new appointments. He has, however, proposed that the retirement age should be at 55 so as to provide spaces for the young people.
The recent recruitment of just 2,000 teachers by government against nearly 30,000 applicants is showing a very serious problem in terms of job creation in this country. First of all, these are trained young men and women who, after training, they should be able to get a job. But 30,000 versus 2,000 means that you have nearly 28,000 that are trained but will be in the streets on Monday morning. They can't get a job. And we don't expect that they can even get jobs in private schools. There are not very many private schools. And the private schools do not have that number of spaces for them to absorb such a huge number of trained but unemployed young people that already have papers in their hands. But that's not the end. We are crossing into 2019 very soon, and which means upon these numbers that have not been recruited right now, they are going to pile up extra numbers, which means that there'll be an increase in the number of unemployed but trained school teachers. The government must address this very significantly by increasing the number of schools, but also by increasing the number of spaces for new teachers to take up new appointments. But this is hinged on the retirement age. If retirement age is increased, say from 55 to 60, 65, it means that older people will remain in jobs for much longer time. I strongly advocate that the retirement age must remain at 55 so that we can be providing for space for the up and young graduates must take up the space from the older people. The government must be intentional about this because we can't be creating such huge number of trained graduates but not having placement in terms of jobs and so on.
The Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection, JCTR, policy analyst Innocent Ndashe is urging Justice Minister Given Lubinda to consider releasing the submissions of draft amended constitution for public scrutiny. Ms. Ndashe believes that this will help remove an impression that the constitution is only for the Patriotic Front government, but it is for the people. Ms. Ndashe is of the view that complaints from stakeholders on how government is governing the welfare of the country is as a result of the lacunas in the constitution. Thus, it is important that Mr. Lubinda releases the amended constitution to the public. He says it is for this reason that government should publish the amended constitution to enable members of the public to analyze its content before it is taken to Parliament for enactment.
One of the issues that we see, I think looking at what has been happening in 2018, possibly complaints about how government has run the governance of the country. That has mostly come because of, I think, the lacunas that our constitution still continues to have. We feel that as we move to 2019, I think the constitution will seriously be looked into and be taken to the people for discussions, and subsequently has to be brought to Parliament for final endorsement, to ensure that we create an environment where I think people feel we are part of Zambia, we are part of this country. There are also pieces of legislation, for example, the Public Order Act, where I think there has been some outcries from some sections of people where they feel possibly government is favoring, for example, the ruling party in terms of giving permits. For example, if you want to protest over something, or air your views using a public way of protest. When it comes to the other side, possibly the police hasn't been receptive. So we feel that I think urgent reforms are also required on the Public Order Act. But that
police have clarified that a video circulating on the social media platform in which a naked man is seen being harassed on suspicion that he had crashed down in the process of practicing witchcraft is not true. Police Public Relations Officer Esther Katongo, however, indicates that the truth of the matter is that the man in question is a known patient in the area and he is not a wizard, as insinuated in the video. Ms. Katongo points out that the fact of the matter is that the naked man in the video was discovered in his naked state by Zambia Army officers at their marine camp in the area in the early hours of Thursday, 11th of December 2018 at about 03 hours, and this brought about suspicions of witchcraft. Meanwhile, Ms. Katongo reveals that the police are looking into the conduct of police officers at the scene and appropriate action will be taken.
There is a video circulating in which a naked man is seen being harassed on suspicion that he had crashed down in the process of practicing witchcraft. And also police officers are seen in the same video with a police motor vehicle labeled Chelenge Police. The facts of the matter are that the naked man in the video was discovered in his naked state by Zambia Army officers at their marine camp in the area in the early hours of Tuesday, 11th December 2018 at about 03 hours, and this brought about suspicions of witchcraft. Police officers were called in to pick the man in question, who was found already tied with a rope. However, the truth of the matter is that the man in question is a known mental patient in the area and he is not a wizard as insinuated in the video. The Zambia Police, through the Office of the Commissioner of Police for Luapula Province, is looking into the conduct of our police officers at the scene, and appropriate action will be taken because it was within the mandate of our officers to quickly rescue the man and take him to safety, irrespective of the reasons of him being found naked.
The civil society organization Inbat Free Prison Project Executive Director Nawa Sanjobo has noted the need for the Ministries of Justice and Home Affairs Minister to consider coming up with synergies that will result in reducing congestion in detention centers, but correctional detention centers and correctional facilities. Mr. Sanjobo is concerned that the continued congestion in urban police stations and correctional facilities is worrying. He says that the main focus of the synergies by the two ministries should be to ensure the speeding up of court cases as a means of decongesting detention facilities. Meanwhile, Mr. Sanjobo has commended government for building modern police stations across the country. He has, however, said that old police stations should also be considered for massive rehabilitation to habitable conditions. The society organization recently released a study report which indicates that both the Zambia Police and the Zambia Correctional Services have HIV and AIDS policies which do not take care of the welfare of the prisoners and suspects.
Well, the policy basically is the HIV policy for the Zambia Police Service. it talks about only welfare of staff. But we know that the Zambia Police Service has the mandate, the custodial mandate of keeping suspects within their detention centers. And if people that come in conflict with the law and under your custody, and you are an institution that should uphold human rights, I think health is a human right. And therefore it is very important that these aspects that pertain to health of detainees are also taken into account in the structured policy that they should it's a finding that most urban centers are overcrowded compared to their overholding capacities. And I think these are issues that I think our judiciary also should look at, speeding up these trials so that people are not kept in such places for a longer period of time. There's a lot of, I think, synergies that need to be done between the Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Home Affairs, and ensuring that all these are aligned as practical policies that should be working together.
Governance activist Leslie Chikuse says that the Lusaka Mayor Mao Sampa's decision to appoint Ngwerere Ward 19 Councillor Adrian Banda to act in his absence as Mayor of Lusaka has allegedly brought a division among some civic leaders. Mr. Chikuse feels that the decision by Mr. Sampa does not only show lack of understanding of the Local Government Act and the procedures, but also that the mayor and his deputy are not in good terms. He says that while it is clear that in the absence of the mayor, the deputy mayor acts in his place, it is unfortunate that Mr. Sampa could still go ahead and appoint a councillor to act in his position. The governance activist has since advised the councillors to acquaint themselves with the provisions in the Local Government Act as to avoid embarrassment in future.
I think Mr. Mao Sampa must work as a uniter. What he has demonstrated in this regard has been a serious seed of disunity in the councillors, because when you look at the councillors, they all represent different wards, and there is no councillor that is more senior than the other councillors. So I think that he has put a serious seed of disunity amongst the councillor, and there is need that the local government minister must come in and unite these councillors. Now, whether or not Mr. Mao Sampa is not happy with the working habits or the working culture of the deputy mayor, what is required is to sit down with the deputy mayor and begin to see how they could relate and work together. Because this is a mayor that was working with the former mayor that was there, Mr. Wilson Kalumba, and should have a lot of experience. Perhaps this confusion or this disunity between the mayor and the deputy mayor is arising from the fact that you remember that at one time the deputy mayor wanted also to stand as mayor. So maybe the aftermath of the elections have not yet been resolved fully to ensure that really people are more concentrating more on development. So it's unfortunate, and we hope that Honorable Mao Sampa must know really his jurisdiction, as much as we know that the mayor, of course, has got a lot of power when it comes to coming up with laws, bylaws within the district. But he must understand that there are procedures that have to be followed when one has to be put as a mayor.
Lusaka Province PF Chair Lady aspiring candidate Charity Banda has pledged to empower youth and women in Lusaka once elected as Chair Lady in the forthcoming Patriotic Front PF intra-party elections. Ms. Banda says in order to achieve this dream, she will come up with initiatives that will help empower women and youth in the province to take up leadership positions. Speaking to Q News, Ms. Banda says she will solicit for funds from different organizations that will help them grow their businesses. She notes that as a result, it is important to supplement government effort in creating jobs and other sources of income. And Lusaka Province PF Chair Lady aspirant has re-echoed the advice of President Edgar Chagwa Lungu that women should learn to support each other, and she says it is important that women reflect on the timely guidance. Ms. Banda states that President Edgar Lungu has demonstrated appreciation for the capacity of women in the country by appointing several of them to decision-making positions. She has assured women in the party that once elected, she will focus her work and ignore detractors, as her success will keep raising confidence in women and appointing authorities.
You know, women, we are the ones who make up the country. Women is power. So divided we fall, but united we stand, divided we fall. And empowering women, initially can come up with initiatives that empower women and youths, because youths and women will work together by soliciting for funding from different organizations in order to create a fund that will be able to assist with capital to establish or grow business. I believe that as a party, we can help supplement government's efforts in creating jobs and other sources of income. You know, there are a lot of things. There's even agro-processing, animal husbandry, and a lot. So especially that we are looking at Lusaka province is initiated of rural districts like Luangwa, Rufunsa, Chongwe, and Kafiwe and Chilanga, including Lusaka itself. But meanwhile, I'm looking at a rural woman. So that's why empowerment should start from there. And these are the things which I really want to come and implement. We have these things already in our PF manifesto, but meanwhile, as Charity Banda, as I come in as a provincial chair lady, these are the things. It's the empowerment of the women which I'll look up to, so that at least every woman should have something to come up with, and they should even be inspired by us as politicians. Politics is not just about talking, but when we empower a woman, we have empowered the whole nation, because the women are the ones who looks after even the children. We even discourage early marriages. When you empower a woman, there's no way a young girl child is going to get married as young as she is. Even the mothers, they'll make sure that they will be managing to do all this.
22 cassava value chain projects worth 3 million kwacha have been approved by financing by the Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission (CEEC) in 4 provinces, that is Copperbelt, Lusaka, Northern and Northwestern provinces. CEEC Public Relations and Communications Manager Messi Kozi says that the projects, which form part of government industrialization and job creation strategy, include the production of cassava flour, paper glue, Gary cosmetics, stove feed, charcoal briquettes, and marketing of cassava. She says of the 22 projects, 41% belong to women, while 38% are for youths and 21% are for men. Mrs. Kozi has stressed that these projects are under the cassava commercialization component of the Skills Development and Entrepreneurship Project supporting women and youths, which is financed by the African Development Bank (AFDB) to implement the commercialization of cassava at a cost of $6 million United States dollars. According to a statement made available to Q News, the AFDB supported project SDEP-SWY has a total of $30 million US, which also targets to construct 10 industrial yards and provide support to cassava value chain development in target districts of Mansa in Wapla Province, Kasama in Northern Province, and Solwezi in Northwestern Province, with market development interventions extending to Lusaka and Copperbelt provinces as well. World Vision Zambia has built a hospital for the people of Moyo and surrounding villages in Pemba district of Southern Province. The hospital, which has been built at a total cost of about 7 million kwacha, is expected to cater for a population of over 78,000 people. Moyo Hospital, which has become one of the biggest hospitals in Southern Province, has been built with the help of the Christ Presbyterian and the North Bridge Churches of the United States of America. Speaking at the celebration of the construction of the hospital, Chief Moyo has thanked World Vision and its partners for the gesture. Chief Moyo says that Zambia has since 1964 seen a change of governments, but never has a development of such a nature been seen. Chilesha Mwango was in Southern Province and brought us this report.
Being the festive period, one may think the celebration is about the birth of the Savior Jesus Christ, also known as Christmas. It is also not a traditional ceremony. These are subjects of Chief Moyo's chiefdom and surrounding villages in Pemba district of Southern Province, celebrating the construction of the first ever hospital in the area by World Vision Zambia. The hospital, constructed at a total cost of over 5 million kwacha, can best be described as a life-saving gift to these people who have for a long time been victims of deaths due to lack of access to better quality health services.
Others could come from very far places, like even 20 kilometers.
Speaking at the celebration, His Royal Highness Chief Moyo expressed gratitude to World Vision Zambia and its partners for the gesture. Moyo also encouraged his subjects to make use of the health facility now that the professional health care providers will be available to attend to them.
This is a day of receiving. Receiving is different from giving. If a person has given you, and then you do not say thank you. In Tonga we say whoever never says thank you is just the same as a dog.
The new hospital has state-of-the-art equipment but is yet to be electrified, hence the call by His Royal Highness to government to ensure electricity connectivity is extended to the area.
Even though you have given us this beautiful hospital, we are requesting for electricity from the main grid, which is able to be on night and day. Do not say we do not say thank you.
For World Vision Zambia, the building of the hospital resonates with its aspiration to have no deaths of either a mother or a child from preventable and treatable diseases. World Vision Operations Director Wezi Kaira says the international organization seeks to continue improving the health and general well-being of the children and their families.
This is because, Your Highness, for World Vision, we aspire that no child should die out of any preventable diseases. And that no mother should die whilst giving life.
And Pemba District Council Chairperson Peter Diololo wants government to upgrade the road leading to the hospital.
Now it's left upon the central government to ensure that the road from this good Moyo Level 1 hospital graded either to a bituminous standard or maybe to grade 1 gravel road.
The hospital is expected to be handed over to government within the first quarter of 2019.
Thank you for that. You all come to me. Thank you for building a hospital for vision. Thank you.
Chilesha Mwango reporting for QTV News in Chief Moyo's village, Pemba District.
Thank you so much, Lesha, for that report. The Zambian Youth Association in the fight against corruption says it is not happy with the manner in which the chairperson for the African Parliamentarians Network Against Corruption, APNAC, Cornelius Mwetwa, behaved during the commemoration of the International Corruption Day. Association Executive Director Maurice Malambo has accused Mr. Mwetwa of having politicized the event by engaging in a very inflammatory tone and generating matters that were tailored to malign some stakeholders like the government and deliberately promote tendencies in the civil service towards state capture. Mr. Malambo adds that the presence of President Edgar Lungu at the event as a guest of honor and attendance of which he would have delegated was good, as it was an expression of both a personal and government commitment or political will towards the fight against corruption in the country. He states that it is unfortunate that such commitment could be met with lack of appreciation by Mr. Mwetwa, who is also Choma Central Member of Parliament.
Unfortunately, his tone of engagement was not only inflammatory, but also was aimed at maligning one stakeholder. We believe that there's no need for stakeholders in the fight against corruption to engage in an inflammatory manner. Instead, there is need for stakeholders to find a common ground, common solutions to common challenges in the fight against corruption, because every stakeholder has a role to play, just as APNAC itself has a role to play. However, the manner in which Honorable Mwetwa engaged during the commemoration was purely partisan. We have taken note repeated positions and or assertions by the United Party for National Development, stating the fact that a number of civil servants are being dismissed by government from the civil service on account that they belong to a particular tribe or they come from a particular province. Mr. Mwetwa, Honorable Mwetwa, re-echoed that position, though in a slightly different manner, where he said that people are being dismissed from the civil service on account that they were whistleblowers. We are engaged in the fight against corruption. When you look at the definition of a whistleblower alerts institutions that are charged with the responsibility to maintain morality.
That's all we had in our news today, but before we go, a recap of stories making headlines. The consortium of opposition political parties have called for the abolition of the Constitutional Court, saying it is not serving its purpose. The United States ambassador accredited to Zambia has clarified that there is no evidence to suggest that Zambia's state assets are poised to be taken over by China due to the country's loans. And the Electoral Commission of Zambia has been urged to announce the date for Sesheke, Kafue district and other ward by-elections before rains intensify. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.